say I've already had my shower, done my hair, put my face on, although I don't have lipstick on yet, that's why I look like a thumb. Put a wash on, put that wash out, and I'm just making my breakfast. And then today I'm working on step 8 of the Snowflake method, so I'm going to talk you through step 7 and 8. Let's go. I should also say it is a Saturday. I got up at about 5:30, which does make me sound like a maniac, and people might be thinking, are you okay? But honestly, this week of getting up that early has made me feel more okay than I have in a long time. I don't like it when people make out like getting up at 5 makes you better than other people. All I'm saying is my brain gets so noisy through the day that I need that little quiet time when it's been rested and no one's contacted me yet is when I can write, because it's not cluttered yet. I don't want anyone to think, oh, in order to be a writer you have to get up at 5 a.m. because some people can write till 1 a.m. and I cannot do that. I will fall asleep on my laptop screen.
So we're on the Snowflake method, step 7. If you are writing a book for the first time, how are you getting on? I really love that some people have already put their one-line hook in the first video for the first step of the Snowflake method. If you want to join in, please do. I just have a vision of our books being made into Netflix specials and us both being on the same talk show one day in the future and looking at each other on the couch and being like, I've had your back from the beginning. I was so invested in your story. So step 6 is a combination for me of the Snowflake method and another method of character development that I've read somewhere. I think it's in a book about making a novel, because I've been trying to write for a very long time. But if I give myself some radical candor, I've only ever been 50% in it, and it's only recently that I am 100% in it that I realise life is passing. And I've always had this when I write a novel in the future mentality in my head, even when I was doing my creative writing degree. And now I'm like, no, I'm doing it now, guys. I'm pitching it now. The time is now. So for step 7, what helped me was putting my characters into a spreadsheet. You're going to hate that or you're going to love that. Let's go with it, and I'll show you how I do it, and you can adapt it to what works for you. You've already at this point got your 1-page synopsises, so that's very much around the character's experience within this story. But let's go into the granular. I'll take you onto my spreadsheet. So I have the characters down the side. So I've split the characters into our protagonist, Lillian, the antagonist, the helpers, so people who work with her, people who are the best friends, the supportive teacher, and be a, wise old wizard if you're writing fantasy. Can you tell I'm not experienced in that genre? And then the opposition, people who maybe aren't the primary antagonist. I've framed this as the antagonist is the love interest. He's not necessarily an opposition, but he's the thing that's making her act in all the crazy ways she's acting in this second book. And then opposition, people who are kind of scuppering her plans. And then obviously there's always lots of bit players, people who do pop in and out through the story but aren't that prevalent to the plot. I feel like writing in a school college setting, I do need these bit players to be mentioned to flesh out the world and make it feel real, because you don't just talk about your one little friendship group, you do talk about everything that's going on with everyone else at school. So you've got the character, their relationship to the main character, a description, and this is meant to be a description again of their character, not their physical appearance just yet. For each of this, what helped me was giving them 2 positives and a negative quality. Even for the opposition, I felt like it was important to not just give them a one-dimensional, like, oh, well, they're bad, so they're just bitchy, because that doesn't make a real character. For me, it's in the same way actors need to find something real and relatable in their characters when they're playing a baddie. Otherwise, you just don't buy them as a real human. Even the female main protagonist in my second book, I've described as assertive, she's vivacious, but she's insecure. That's what causes her to do the bad things that she does. And she needed to be vivacious. She needs to be liked by the other characters in the book that do like her, even though my main character is like, what's so great about Jasmine? Then you've got the date of birth, age. I did like to think about like what kind of star sign they were. Some of these characters, like, I just fired this off pretty quickly because I was like, of course she's a Virgo. Then we've got this physical description. Sometimes I like books that don't really give you too much physical description and you just kind of paint the character in your head anyway. It's good to have I think the physical description for you in your brain, but I don't think it's too important that those details need to be in the book. Like books that are very like, she shook her brown hair and fluttered her green eyes playfully at him, like, especially in the style that I'm writing, we don't talk like that. They're goals and dreams, so I guess in the way in the earlier step we talked about their motives, for me that was very much their motive within this book, whereas goals and dreams, it's like, what are their goals and dreams on the big picture as a person. Then we've got their flaw, their fears, their hobbies. Fears, I think, is an interesting one that really gets you into the depth of that character, because obviously you're not just going to be, oh, they're scared of spiders. You could be. Some could be. Like in this, my character has a 5-year-old brother, so he's scared of the dark and likes to climb into her bed because he gets night terrors. But then other character fears are things like they've got a fear of being irrelevant, they've got a fear of not being the golden girl anymore. And then for the final sentence, again, this wasn't in the Snowflake method, it's to write a sentence saying my life is. So if that character was asked like, what is your life right now, how would they answer it? I like to write this in the style of how that character would speak. For example, one of the characters in my main friendship group is academic. She's always the one that gets straight A's, although it's not A's anymore because it's in current times and now it's numbers. She got the grades she needed for her A levels. She's just about to start doing her A levels. So she's said, my life is on track. But why do I keep thinking about sex now? Because your gals hit puberty a little bit later than her friends, and now she understands why they had such bad attention spans at school. As I've said with all the character style steps, I've really enjoyed doing this step. It's another one, again, where you might sit down to do it and think, I don't really think it's that important to know this much about a bit character. But actually, as I've been writing little things about their fears, it's given me ideas for scenes that would still be relevant to the plot, but I'd be like, oh, that's why they'd react like that in that scene. So you might not want to do it in a spreadsheet if you've got the time. You might want to do it in an actual physical book. If you're artistic, you might be able to draw your characters. I wish I was artistic. I wish I could draw these little characters in my head, because I would love to have a notebook full of sketches of them. But what I can do in my artistic capabilities just wouldn't be valuable for me. I'm going to take you straight on to step 8 now, because we are nearly ready to get writing. It's been a hot minute, guys, but I promise you, when we've done all these steps, that your writing will fly. There's no right or wrong way. I will always say that I'm not telling you this is how you write a book. This is what has really helped me to write a book. So step 8, I put in the same spreadsheet on a new tab, scene by scene breakdown. The Snowflake method says to use your 4-page synopsis to pick out these scenes and flesh out every individual scene that needs to happen to tell that story. I already did my chapter breakdown that I've shown before, which is just up here on the other side of my wall planner for the year. So I find that easier to just look at to guide me than going back into the document with my 4-page synopsis. I'll probably just cross-reference that at the end. So this is going to be a meaty spreadsheet. I've done 22 scenes now, and about a third of the way through, I'm going to continue doing that this weekend and then start writing. And the reason having every single scene just in a little one-liner on a spreadsheet is so helpful is that because sometimes you want a scene to happen and then you get to start writing it and it's just not working. But you can go to a different scene and you don't have to write in chronological order with this in your pocket. And then whatever scenes are left to write by the end, you might be like, could this be done differently? Is it not good? Is that why I've stalled on writing it until this point? And then you might change it and then write a scene that works but still gets from the A to B of that part of the story. I hope that was helpful. I've taken way too long to do this step because I've had mental health issues, confidence crises, hence why the first video was a whole year ago. But I'm on it now. My plan is to go straight into doing the draft of this second book and then going straight into the draft of the third of the trilogy before I do the edits, just to keep my momentum up and to see how long it really does take to do the Snowflake method each step by step, because it doesn't take a year. It's not going to take you a year. If you're motivated enough to be looking for YouTube channels to help you how to write a book, you are already being more proactive than I was in the earlier days of my first vision of shit, I need to write a book. If you are writing a book, I'd love to know what's helped you. What's been the best tip you've had for the planning part part and the world building, character building, structuring part before you get to the juicy part. We'll get to that. If you're new here, I am on TikTok and Instagram too, sharing bite-sized tips, bite-sized book reviews, bite-sized silly little book skits, and anything bookish, all under Charlie_Raz_writes. Hope to see you there. If this has been valuable for you, please do like and subscribe, and I will see you next week as we get into step 10, and I'll tell you why I ignore step 9. I just spilled coffee on myself because I was so excited with my little daydream. But you can go to a different scene and you don't have to write in chronicle. Oh my god, why?